As you watch the screen, your heart begins to beat faster. There's a fluttering in the pit of your stomach. Your throat is dry. Your palms damp. Suddenly a chill runs down your spine. You clutch the person next to you. You tell yourself, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. But sooner or later, it's time to go home.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
I'm Ron.
And this is our review of Jason X, starring Alexa Doyle, Lisa Ryder, Chuck Campbell, Peter Mensa, Melissa Aid, Melody Johnson, Jonathan Potts, David Cronenberg, and Kane Hodder. Directed by Jim Isaac, released in 2001 on a budget of $11 million, the biggest budget of all so far, grossed just $17 million at the box office. So
people just weren't ready for it.
I'm going to tell the story now of how I found out there even was a Jason X, okay? I had left the town that basically I grew up, went to college in, and had started my career and worked in. I moved away to a place I didn't know anybody, right? So, like, one of the first weekends I'm there, and I'm getting home from work, I got nothing to do. We actually had a video warehouse in town. You remember those? And yes. I went to rent, stuff to watch because I had just bought a DVD player. That tells you how long ago this was, like 2002, right? So I got a DVD player, and I'm just walking through the store, and there's like nothing I want to see. I'm like, man, this all sucks. I'll just go home. And as I'm walking out the store, out of the corner of my eye, I catch this box that says Jason X on it. And I go, they made another Friday the 13th film? I had no idea. I had no idea this was a thing. Picked up the box, read the back of it, and immediately said, oh, yes, I will be watching this weekend. Rented it, and we'll get into my thoughts because I remember them distinctly. But I had no idea this was even a thing when it existed. Were you aware of this movie when it was being made?
I was not, but I do have a similar story. This is one of the first movies that I illegally downloaded via LimeWire. And
that took you like 3 days, didn't it? So.
Like 5, yeah. But yes, that's my Jason X story, and I'm sure I'd have it saved on my. I'm sure it's still on the hard drive of the computer I had in college. So sorry, New Line. I'll send you $5 in the mail.
I did read a snippet on this. Is it true that Todd Farmer wrote this for the studio just so that they could have a Jason film while Freddy vs. Jason was still in development hell? So that they were like, we got to have another Jason film. That last one tanked. We got to have another one. And he's like, well, the only other place to go is space. And,
well, I mean, really, it was far past time. Before we get to space.
Yeah, it's usually part 4. Like Leprechaun does it in part 4. Hellraiser does it in part 4. I am
Critters
surprised.
did it in part 4.
Yeah, Critters did it in part 4. I'm surprised that it took 10 episodes, 9 sequels, if you will, for them to finally get Jason into space. Wow. So I think I'm going to ask you for the plot summary now, and then I'm just going to go ahead and give you my question right now. You say this is your favorite Jason film. So tell us what happens in it, and then I want you just to tell me right now why this is your favorite one out of all of them that we've watched.
Oh, no problem. So, Jason has been in custody for some time, with researchers trying to figure out how and why he won't die, so they can use him for medical advancement or even make a weapon out of him. However, Jason breaks free and goes to killing again before a fast-thinking scientist, Rowan, can spring the cryogenic freezers which preserve her and Jason for 450 years. Flash forward to 2455, and a team of students on a routine training mission rescue Rowan and Jason using nanotechnology to resurrect her from a mortal wound she sustained before the freeze. While trying to perform an autopsy on Jason, he awakens and starts kill again until female Superbot KM-14 shoots him literally to pieces. However, he falls into the nanotechnology table and it turns him into Uber Jason, who goes on a rampage on the spaceship. KM-14 goes toe-to-toe again with Jason, but not even she can stop him in his ultimate form. Sergeant Brodsky, who is leading a team of space marines against Jason, finally grabs him and the two plummet through Earth-2's atmosphere, seemingly burning up on re-entry, while Rowan and a few remaining survivors ponder life on the new planet. However, I will add that Jason lands in a lake.
Well, the mask does. Does he land in the lake? Are we sure about that?
Where he goes, where the mask goes, he goes.
We do have two star-crossed people wearing spandex leather outfits, seemingly getting ready to have, illicit sex. Watch that go down.
Space sex.
Earth 2 sex. So, yeah. I guess if you can't beat him, make a military product out of him. I mean, that's David Cronenberg's role here, right?
Well, it worked in Aliens, so...
Okay, yeah, that's what I want to ask you. Is this your favorite because it reminds you of other things you like so much? Or is there something inherently about it that you're like, yes, the Jason film I've always wanted?
Well, I like it because it does remind me of other things I like, but I also like it because it reaches a sublime level of ridiculousness. I mean, you've got a nippleless cyborg fighting Jason.
Who, is obsessed with the fact that she doesn't have nipples, by the way.
Yeah, well, she wants to be milked by Greg Fokker, so she needs nipples.
Is that what that is? Because, I mean, wow.
I'm just tying it to something 2000 related. Well, she shoots Jason holding the gun sidearm.
Right, she gangsta leans it.
Yeah,
from
that's a kill shot.
Boys in the Hood is what she does.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Which, by the way, you shoot guns, I shoot guns. Anybody knows how to shoot guns knows that's the dumbest thing you could do. Like, you totally jack your aim up doing it that way. But
it's a terrible idea because, you're going to either have the hot projectile going towards your face or going straight down at your feet.
Right.
It's a good way to get burned.
I guess if you're a cyborg, you don't care.
Well, yeah. I mean, she doesn't have nipples, so she probably doesn't have a lot of nerve endings in her feet.
I guess so.
But yes, I enjoy this one because it embraces the inherent comedy of taking Jason and throwing him into some sort of Demolition Man style future.
Okay, you mentioned that, and I'm glad you brought that movie up. I hold a special place in the garbage cinema heart that I have for Demolition Man.
Me too.
I constantly say the term "be well," and I got it from that movie. I don't mind admitting that. I don't understand the three seashells either, and I do feel like this movie has a little bit of that going on in it. It does feel in that realm and world. It would have been even better had they put Jason and this woman from presumably 2005 in 2055, and if everybody had become like these super prudish squares. The thing that I couldn't get over, and my wife also couldn't get over, was since when could you dress that slutty to be in zero gravity? Because it seems like it would go against like all of the nature of what's going on around you, because all of the men are dressed like pseudo monks, or something, but all of the women are at the club. Yeah, it's so strange.
Yeah, the men are wearing what basically are like college basketball uniforms.
Yes.
And the women are all dressed like prostitute scientists.
Right, yeah. I don't want to objectify the women here. I get accused of being a misogynist sometimes in these podcasts, and it's not true. I'm reflecting only what I'm seeing on the screen, and I don't get why these people are dressed this way either. It doesn't make any sense. Even for the couple of them that act like their characters are sort of weird. There's that one girl with the nipple clamps and all. I don't know what that's all about, man. But, I mean, we already seen the professor, try to give away a grade for sex. Right? They just ripped that right out of Part 8. Except this time he's into it.
Yeah, this time he actually gives the grade in exchange for the sex.
Yeah, who is that guy, by the way? He looks like a Mystery Science Theater throw-off, but I understand he's some kind of Canadian actor.
This movie's lousy with Canadian actors.
It really is.
I mean, it was like they were shooting this on the same time they were shooting Lex, so they got a bunch of crossover people.
I feel like I also got a lot of people from like Degrassi, one of the seasons, in this, because they feel like those people too.
Yeah. Well, that's Jonathan Potts, I believe, and he's on The Strain.
Okay. See, I know that show, but I don't watch it. So
he was on Degrassi: The Next Generation.
See, I knew it. I knew it. So
yes, you're right.
I feel like though when we get this opening here with Jason chained up, and we're doing this whole argument between David. I love how David Cronenberg will just show up in any piece of crap, anywhere along the way.
You got to keep your SAG card because that's got really good health insurance.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe so. I mean, this is before we get into it is 2001, so he's got to do this. So,
and I enjoy, and it's very much a Hannibal Lecter.
Yes,
type scene.
Thank
too.
you. Yes,
of things that remind me of things.
Yes, it's very Hannibal. Like they've chained Jason up, and like they do all this extended scene in the beginning. I had forgotten this about it, where like they're poking and prodding him and testing him and stuff. Like, and Jason's like, "Oh, don't get that needle near me." And I'm like, "You've been shot at least 1,000 times at this point. You're undead for goodness sake, and you're still afraid of needles." That was, I'm sorry, Kane. That was bad. That's a bad move. And I will say this: his performance in this movie is way better than the last one. It's not even close. Because I think he's actually having fun in this one again. But that note was bad. So
yeah, well, that's probably you could probably put that at the feet of the director.
Maybe so. So I don't know Jim Isaac from anything else. Do you know any of his other movies?
Either that or what we look at and see like flinching in fear is supposed to be him trying to like rip his way out of the restraints to murder.
Right. Like, so how does he get loose exactly here? Like they say that when they throw the blanket over him, like the internet tells me that wakes him up and that's what makes him mad, but he looks like he's pretty awake staring at that guard anyway.
Yeah, he was awake the whole time. Yeah. They just don't show us how he wakes up because they couldn't think of a way to do that.
I guess, but whatever they thought of probably looked terrible, and they were like, you know what? It's part 10. Who gives a damn? He gets loose and kills everybody. So we got a lot of other stuff to shoot. Let's get David's only here for a day, and Cronenberg does get a good death. I will say that throw spear thing from behind is a good death. He probably demanded that.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're gonna get David Cronenberg in, you have to kill him in an interesting way. I mean, he's playing basically a mad scientist. It's like if you had John Waters in your movie and you don't make him a pervert, you miss the point.
Right. It's like you're not doing your stunt casting right. So
my second John Waters reference in this mini podcast.
No, very impressive, by the way. I do like the way that all of it goes down here, though, between him and Rowan, where she like outsmarts him and gets him in that cryo tank or whatever. Mm-hmm. She's like, "Ha ha, got you!" And I love how he's strong enough to stab her through the freaking door with the machete. I'm like, man, we've talked about the varying strengths of Jason's machetes through the years, and I'm like, that thing has got to be made out of like, adamantium or something, man. So,
yeah, this is clearly the superior machete.
Yeah, I mean, not even close. And he will do all kinds of things to get that machete back in this. It's
okay, guys. He just wanted his machete.
Exactly. So I do like that, though. I like the setup here. I'll say that. The setup here got me. I'm still thinking, man, this is incredibly stupid. But everybody here seems to know that, and they're kind of going with it. Unlike last time, where I didn't think anyone was aware of how stupid this setup was, except Stephen Williams, who was playing Creighton Duke.
Yeah, and I mean, you missed an opportunity to have, like, Space Creighton Duke.
Right.
Come back in.
Yeah, they almost have it with the Sergeant Brodsky guy, who's so tough that he can't die, at all. I don't know what wrestler that's supposed to be, but I mean, he just keeps coming, and he's a Timex, for goodness sakes. But the setup of this is almost the same as Part 8. You've got a school trip on a spaceship, people obsessed with sex with their teacher. Somebody trying to money grab on something else, somebody who doesn't want to be there. I mean, it is the same thing, like mixed with the little aliens and a little, this and that.
and a little comedy.
Yeah, well, but like intentional comedy. That's the thing is, have these movies ever intentionally tried to be funny up until now?
Maybe part 4.
Part 6. Part 6 was definitely that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. That's the only time they tried it before, and that more or less worked, I guess. But I don't know. Something about this, are the jokes better here? I hate to say that, but I kind of feel like they are.
I think the jokes are definitely better here. I laughed quite a bit the first time I saw this, and I still laugh quite a bit at a lot of it. Particularly Brodsky's first fake death scene, where he says, it's going to take more than that to kill me.
He gets
and then
stabbed
Jason
again.
stabs him again, and he's like, yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what that felt like? Something out of Leprechaun or Critters 4, which I had not seen at the time when I finally saw this movie. I knew those existed, I think, but I had not seen them. Having now seen both of those and reviewed them for this show in the archives and Hellraiser 4 at that point, I'm going to say probably right up there with the comedy of Leprechaun 4, which is a piece of garbage but is hilarious in its setup in space. Because the one thing I'll give this movie is that they're not bothering with any of the illustrious backstory. Like, there's a point when the doctor is talking to some research scientist / fence back on Earth or whatever about what could I get for somebody named Jason Voorhees, and he's like, "You mean the mass murderer who like killed 1 billion people and then disappeared?" I'm like, well, they had to explain what the heck happened, So my question to you is this supposed to be taking place in a different timeline than Part 9? Because last time we saw, Jason was in hell.
Yeah, that was Roy, and this is Jason.
Okay, so that is Roy, and so that must mean that Freddy versus Jason is actually Freddy versus Roy, so which we will get to in a couple of weeks. But,
Well, it has to be, because otherwise how is Jason going to wake up in space?
right, how is he going to wake up in a facility, being tested on to then get to space with the semi-Asian girl here, Lexa Doig. I feel like I don't know anything about this lady. I'm like, she's probably like Vietnamese or Polynesian or something like that, and they're making her play like I don't know what she's supposed to be. Like she's
Filipino and Irish.
Okay, there we go. Well, that makes some sense then. So, but she is playing Ripley-esque. Like, that's her whole thing. Actually, who she reminds me of? She reminds me of the girl in the lead in Hellraiser 3. The one who tells the priest, if there's no such thing as demons, then what the F is that? Like, she's that girl in a lot of ways. Because she is the harbinger of doom once they wake her up on this ship. Because none of them believe her, right? So, like, you didn't bring him on here, did you? Yeah, what's the problem? Yeah, well, that's a bad idea. What'd you make of the nanotechnology, though? I thought that was some fun, like Michael Crichton's worst nightmare.
Yeah, I got a couple of really good laughs about that. It's so cute that they tried to spend money on this movie. It really is, and I've seen worse nanotechnology displays on movies that cost more than this, but at the same time, it's hilariously bad, and it just made me think of the nanites from Mystery Science Theater 3000, my second MST reference in as many podcasts. But that's how they explain away a lot of that's how they hand wave away all the science issues on MST3K. They ended up giving them nanites to make everything out of particles or whatever. So, they actually kind of look like the nanites, but not puppets, just CGI.
Yeah, it's like this weird crawly little thing. I mean, you get the one like stoner Rasta dude with the dreads hair that gets his arm chopped off because frozen Jason falls forward and cuts his arm off, which is like a gag out of Scooby Doo, or something.
Which makes sense because he reminds me of Franz Kranz from Cabin in the Woods, but he's not.
Yeah, he is kind of the same thing. You're right. So, but he feels like
the stoner archetype.
But the thing is, he gets like basically killed twice by Jason in this movie now, which I think is him and Brodsky both get killed. Well, Brodsky gets 3 times, I guess, by Jason, which is impressive.
He gets 3 times. He gets 3 times if you count the virtual reality murder.
Oh, we'll get to the virtual reality murder. Hold that thought. So, but I love the Earth here is like the Earth of Alien Resurrection. You know, what an asshole. You know, I mean, it's terrible. And Jason wakes up on the table though while the lady scientist that looks, I don't know, kind of like Kate Upton's older sister or something.
She's like, but wearing Olivia Newton-John's clothes.
Yes, thank you very much. Is doing tests on him, like she pulls out his gooey, messed up eye. So, you know, he wakes up because 2 people are having sex. And my question has always been, so the sex is what wakes Jason up, right? Like even in space. That's the thing he can't deal with is the sex, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they play to that later when they load the Crystal Lake virtual reality program.
Oh, where the 2 girls are laying there and they're like, well, we love premarital sex, you know. And
yeah.
He does beat another one to death with the sleeping bag. Yeah, that's funny.
Which made me laugh the first time I saw it.
That is the funniest thing in this movie.
I could not stop laughing the first time because he was beating the one girl to death with the other girl, and then he gave her the Friday the 13th signature sleeping bag against the tree smash.
Yes, yeah, from part 7, which we both liked that kill in particular. So they're calling back to things that work. You know, I think the people making this movie are like, look, we need something that's stupid, that's intentionally funny, and that calls back to the stuff people like about all of this. Because it's the only reason this movie exists is because the studio's like, we've got to have something else out there to remind people who Jason is. We're not doing another Freddy movie because that's what Freddy versus Jason's going to be. So what are we supposed to do? That we've got to do something that's kind of a greatest hits of Jason without really, going back to direct Crystal Lake, right? Like that's what they're creating in this space in the Star Trek Next Generation holodeck thing.
Well, and it's also one of the few movies that it seems like it was written by someone who'd seen the other movies.
Yeah.
Or at least they made him watch them before he wrote this script to probably maintain the rights to Jason.
Well, I get a feeling that Todd Farmer is a guy that probably did know the series pretty well and made the wise choice to not go with elaborate, unnecessary backstory. You know, let's not do that again, right? Let's just... As fun as the virtual reality kill is, though, the best kill to me is the lady scientist that gets her face frozen in the dry ice mix thing or whatever and then gets smashed against the table. I thought that was a really grotesque and neat kill.
That's probably my favorite non-wheelchair kill of the series.
It is right up there with poor wheelchair guy from part 2. You're right.
And that's another reason why I love this movie so much, because actually it goes there and gives me something we haven't seen. Like, we've seen Jason smush heads, but we haven't seen him smush a frozen head.
No, and the thing is how does his hand not get frozen in all that liquid nitrogen stuff? Like, I guess maybe he had his hand out and was just holding her by the hair?
Yeah, he had her by the hair and only pushed her face in.
Okay.
So that's why when he smashes her head, only half of her head is gone.
Can I ask another question, though? And I'm applying way too much logic to this, but how did Jason know that would work? I mean,
I thought you were going to ask how many times they shot it. Where Kane Hodder puts his hands on that woman's boob.
Oh yeah, he does grope her badly in this, and I'm wondering if he did that just to mess with her, being Kane Hodder and being I'm going to do things that make you uncomfortable, because she reacts to that in a way that I would expect someone to react to that. Like, what are you doing?
Although let's be fair to Kane Hodder, he probably can't see anything in that mask.
This is true, but I don't.
He's only got one visible eye, and it's the eye on the other side of his groped hand.
And look, maybe she told him, do whatever, I don't care. You know, again, all these people in this movie seem to know what kind of movie they're in. They're going for it, you know. So they make it work in some way or another. But it's a very unique kill. It's fun to watch Jason do this, because this is where he's going to get ready to just get a slashing weapon and wade through most of the cast. Like that's what his whole point is here, is to get set up so that he can face off against KM eventually, right?
And full credit to this movie, they don't overthink. They don't overthink a Jason movie.
Mm-hmm.
They don't try to give him some kind of backstory. They say, what would happen if Jason got a hold of a space machete? And then they run with it.
Right. He gets his old weapon back because he kills the lead guy. And basically the only people that are left, we have the Marines that are doing, there's one of them with Stoner guy that does like a virtual reality sim where Jason walks in and kills them in VR. And
I believe that is our screenwriter, Todd Farmer.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So they do that, and then he kills them for real life. So there's all that going on. The Space Marines get wiped out by Jason because they're no match for him either. Because again, we'll go back to our aliens thing here: primitive versus the modern tech. The primitive always wins, right? Like we have to continue to play that up. But
yeah, at least until Lexadoid gets that space shotgun thing.
Yeah, let's talk about KM-14's quote upgrade to Terminatrix here. When I saw that walk out, and I mean the minute this thing was on the screen, I'm watching this the first time, I'm going, oh, that's an android. Okay, oh, that's a funny joke with the nipple thing. That's kind of weird. When are they going to put guns on her? Because I'm like, I know that's the only reason this character is there, because who else do you think could kill Jason? Except her. And they play with us in this whole thing where he stabs her and she like fakes it and then is like, gotcha. And I'm like, did he like program her like they do with Data sometimes on Next Generation where they like turned on her humor chip or something?
Well, she's kind of cracking jokes throughout the whole thing. I think she's just a more advanced AI.
She must be, man. She's got some wicked fighting skills, though, right? Like she goes total, Mortal Kombat finish him on Jason here. I mean, she blows him to bits.
Well, let's say where they got it from. She goes full Matrix.
Yeah, it is very Matrix. You mentioned Aeon Flux before too. It kind of felt a little bit like that. So
yes.
there was some of that, and I'm not talking about the bad one that they made with Charlize Theron. I mean, like the cartoon. Or the anime or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that it's a gory kill. Like they blow Jason apart, literally, and conveniently blow him onto the cryo nano table. Which I'm watching that going, who doesn't see what's coming next? So, and maybe I shouldn't care that that's so set up, that it's so elementary. Is that what I'm supposed to know, that that's okay, that's coming next? That there's no surprises in this movie?
Well, it's Jason. He's going to come back somehow. They just have to think of a way to bring him back. I mean, and they push it to the point where they blow his head to, they explode some sort of meat pumpkin.
Yeah. Well, again, we've done the blown up Jason thing before, and we're doing it again now. But this time, like the head was intact last time, and it did look like a pumpkin last time. This time, it definitely does. But I love how Jason has this look when he's about to get the rocket in the face of like ruh-roh, like they cut the K-Nod doing that, and I'm like, Jason was never one for emoting when he got hacked before, or killed by somebody.
Well, I think he knows this is some next level. Head exploding.
It must be. I mean, again, how he's even aware of where he is. Like, poor Lexa Doig seems, lost in this new world. I can't imagine what poor Jason feels like.
Yeah, well, to be fair, any time outside of 1980, it probably seemed weird to Jason.
Yeah, really.
Because he's some sort of time traveler.
Right, like he has no idea where he is anymore. So they blow him up. They wreck through the shuttle disaster thing, so we got to get the clock ticking as if this movie wasn't moving fast enough. I'm like, man, they're really trying to get through this sucker quick. And we get Uber Jason. Now, I will tell you, this was the thing I remembered the most from this movie. And when I watched it the first time, I thought, now that was a cool idea. And I feel like somewhere Todd Farmer started maybe with that. Like, at some point, I got to get nanobots to repair Jason, and it turns him into the Terminator. And that's kind of what we get here, right?
Yeah, and that's definitely another reason why I enjoy the movie, because it reminds me of the Terminator with all of that pesky humanizing.
Yeah, right. It's the it's the original Terminator. It's just this force with a machete coming at you. And I like the look of it. I'll say this: for as cheesy as this movie is, and it is cheesy, the direction here and the art direction and the work on the Jason props and the way he looks, it's pretty cool.
And full credit to them when they crash the Grendel into Solaris, another movie reference. They crash a model into a model, so it looks cool.
Yes, that is a good looking model crash. Yeah, it was before we totally gave over to CGI and everything. I mean, I think this was obviously years after Jurassic Park and stuff like that, but they did an actual practical on that, which looks so much better than it would have if they had generated it at that point, I believe.
Well, they definitely age a lot better, which is a weird thing to say about a 2001 Jason movie where he goes to space and hacks up Canadians.
Right. That may have been a better plot summary than what we gave earlier. But no, I love here, though, that this is where we get the best comedy, though, the 80s virtual scene with Jason. That's great and is very funny. But I love how Brodsky comes back. I'm like, oh, I didn't expect him to be Chekhov's sergeant, that he survived the double stabbing. That's one tough Marine. I mean, he's like the Black Hicks.
I think I think that's what they were going for, a Hicks type of thing. Except now they've got Deus Ex nanobots, and they can just kind of bring anybody back from a not immediately fatal wound.
Right. They do nanobot him back into full health so that he can get in his Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan space thing. He does look like what Chekhov and that other Paul Winfield are wearing in that. I mean, you got to admit. And chase Jason around in the zero gravity of space.
Yeah, and so we get another fun. I'm just disappointed he didn't say something like "Get away from her, you bitch."
we don't even get one of those good ones. Again, though, they obviously this is made by the Freddy Company. They weren't trying to do Freddy-esque stuff here, so they didn't go for that. Jason didn't have lines like that. So
no, but after Creighton Duke, why stop cribbing lines from better movies for your movie?
Why didn't Lexa get a good one? That's what I wanted to know. Like, Rowan should have had a good line for Jason, like, go get it, Sarge, or something,
I think the robot got all the good lines.
Yeah, she really does. We do get another face-off between KM and Uber Jason. It doesn't go so well the second time around, though.
Where KM literally gets her head punched off like the guy from Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yes, the boxer. But she survives, just like the David thing in the awful Prometheus. And not nearly as well played as Michael Fassbender's.
Or like Bishop in...
Aliens.
Aliens, yeah.
Yeah, again, reminding me of things I like better. I like Hero Space Sergeant to the Rescue, though, and the Earth 2 scene. We already talked about it. You think Jason survives this? I thought he burned up in the atmosphere.
Well, he burned up in the atmosphere, but he's also Jason.
Right. So
How many times have we seen him blown up, burned, mutilated, beyond belief? He can come back.
We could believe that somewhere they could have made a sequel on Earth 2 with Jason doing Earth 2 murder things, but they never will.
Maybe Earth 2 is the... I can't even finish it. Maybe Earth 2 is the Freddy Krueger universe. Maybe it's like a multiverse type of situation where he crosses some sort of space nexus into...
But they're still in the year 2455, so... I don't know. They don't do a good job of setting us up as to where we are exactly here. But
2455 is definitely very much. It's the Jason continuity, so 2455 is probably like 2010.
Could be.
I mean, this is a world where what was it supposed to be? 1997 is 1984,
right?
And so the movie that came out in the 90s, the Jason Goes to Hell, is apparently in some time in the mid to late 2000s or whatever.
Which this one just completely ignores. We just have to say that. It's like the last one didn't exist. It's like Part 8 ended and they caught him in New York and they've just held on to him all this time. Like, that's what's happening here. Because there's nothing left at the end of Part 9 for them to go and do anything with.
Yeah. So does that make this one Roy, or does that make the weird worm tongue monster Roy?
I don't know. That's what
I guess this one. I guess this one would have to be Roy. Like, this is Space Roy.
This is Space Roy has come back here. So that's I don't know what's happening here anymore, man.
Elroy from the Styx album.
There it is. Well, Mr. Roboto, we're at time for final thoughts, recommendations, and popcorn ratings. So, what are yours for Jason X?
In case my love of this stupid movie hasn't given it away, I'm gonna go extra large popcorn. I have the most fun with this one of pretty much any of the Jason movies because it fully embraces the true stupidity of a movie about a mushy-faced hockey zombie killing people in space. The dumber. This movie could not be any dumber, and that's why I love it unabashedly. So
I can join you in the sentiment that this is a lot of fun to watch. This is way more fun to watch than the last one. I mean, if it's on, I'll put it on in the background, kind of funny, laugh at it type of movie. But I don't know. I guess it's as dumb as Part 6 and Part 8 and as fun as those wanted to be. So I kind of feel like it falls into that area for me, which I'm going to give it a...
But it's like if Jason Takes Manhattan fully embraced the ridiculousness of putting Jason loose in mid-90s Manhattan.
Yeah, you know what? I will say this movie is a better version of Jason Takes Manhattan. It's almost the same thing. I said that from the outset, and I'm going to stand by that. I think it is a better version of that same idea. And in that respect, it's a better movie. I'm going to give it a medium popcorn, but not like a bash medium, but like one of the good mediums. Like a good fun, I can laugh at it medium, but it's not in my top end of the series. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm going to say now, though, I don't feel like this is any more Jason movie than the last one was. Like, I feel like New Line is over 2 on their Jason movies. They've screwed this up twice now. And how they ever got around to Freddy vs. Jason, which we're going to get to in a couple of weeks here now, is amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely not a Jason movie, but it's at least a more fun failure than Jason Goes to Hell.
Right. Now, we're going to... Go ahead.
And it was clearly written by somebody who likes the Jason character.
Yeah, it's our last Kane Hodder. We should mention that. And I don't think it's his best performance, but I think it's up there with as good of the one as he gave the first time he was out, which was Part 7. I thought he was good in that one. And he seems to be having as much fun in this. So,
if not more.
If not more, yeah, because he's really grown into it at this point. So, it's fun. Again, it's fun. It's good junk. I can live with it on that level.
And I mean, how many movies do you get to grope busty Canadian Olivia Newton-John and get paid for it?
and smash your face into a sink as you've frozen it with liquid nitrogen. I don't know.
And then just to me, the funniest part of that whole scene isn't the smashed face; it's just the callous way with which Kane Hodder dumps that dummy.
Yes, he just shrugs it off like.
That just kind of is the cherry on the comedy sundae.
That is how that. It is the comedy of it. This is a comedy. There's no doubt about it. It's straight comedy. If 6 was trying to do that, this one certainly is. So it's in that realm. So we're going to do something different for us here now, though. We usually do these retrospectives. We go straight through release wise, but we're skipping one. We're skipping Freddy vs. Jason because we are going to do the remakes now of Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street, having covered both full series now and their odd different line spinoffs. We're going to do the not Freddy vs. Jason. We're doing the 2009 Friday the 13th remake next, and then we'll do the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street before coming back to Freddy vs. Jason. So I haven't seen...
And I'll go ahead and tell you this. I have not seen the remake.
Interesting. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'm curious to revisit it as well. I do remember not liking it at all the first time I saw it, and writing a scathing article for a website I was writing for back at the time about how terrible I thought it was. I'll be curious to see if my feelings on it have changed at all as we go back to it here. But the fact that you've never seen it, that's going to be fun to visit in then. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Not, as much as I would be if it was a good movie, but still, it's gonna be interesting.
We're going to see how it works out, that's for sure. So, folks, thanks for joining us in this latest edition of Film Strip. Of course, you can find all of our past episodes and past series at our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Continuous Play Podcast /Film Strip. Follow us on Twitter. Hook up with us on Facebook as well. Let us know what you think of the show. We appreciate your support. Until next time, from Ron, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Please leave us a positive review on iTunes and link up with us on Facebook. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121.